police officers being burnt to death?
Where?
You know, the people in the revolution fried 3 police officers.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
In Egypt?
Yeah, but did you see that? No. You saw the police officers shooting rubber bullets and spraying people. That you saw. Hypocrisy. It's all right to show us, but don't show us doing anything wrong.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's all right to show us protecting the Museum of Antiquity, but don't show our people destroying the Museum of Antiquity. Basically, they got the shots with the guys with their arms locked, and the same people that are doing the rioting are locked arms all around the thing to prevent the people from coming in. That's called after the fact. What stopped it was people that lived in the area ready to putting their lives in danger to save history for their children.
Mm-hmm.
So, but hypocrisy comes in many forms. I mean, for instance, we know people that basically tell us, well, actually we know newsmen, they'll flat out tell you in the newsroom, don't say anything political because you can get into trouble. These are journalists, folks. Don't say anything political because you can get into trouble. We'll cover races. Don't say what those people said. Well, they said it to a newsman. If they said it to a newsman, they meant it to be heard. Don't say that because you can get in trouble. I mean, I heard some jokes being made around one of the racers. He thought it was funny about him.
Those are like insiders' jokes.
Yeah, but that he's so old that he could do commercial for Depends underwear. Mm-hmm. And then how do you get young? And how do you get the new junior league? Well, you add this and this together and you get it. Those are insider jokes they're talking about to the press people.
Yeah.
And they're banning because they think it's funny. The drivers think it's funny. The drivers actually want people to know they have a sense of humor. I mean, I've seen Danica Patrick. Danica Patrick is the really nicest person on earth.
Yeah, she is.
But she doesn't. But they cultivate the image that she's a bitch. Well, when she said, "Oh yeah, he's with me," and I come in and yeah.
Well, sometimes they get that image because it's almost like a protective image because otherwise people take advantage of it.
Yeah, but it's hypocrisy in press. I've never seen there are more hypocrites in press rooms than you can imagine. You can't do that. You can't say that. You can't write that. You can't produce that. I came from my journalism classes said specifically it was your job to go out and expose. You would basically print the truth, and if the truth was not, they said the public would tell you if that was the truth that they wanted to hear by simply not buying your publication and looking at your show. But today they don't even do that. I mean, I had teachers which were some of the greatest people in the business. I mean, people don't know who Tiller St. Roger, St. John, but she was a massive, big person back in the day. I mean, I actually had William Randolph Hearst attend one of my classes, which was a giant in the industry. I had Edward R. Murrell, Charles Collingwoods. These people, giants in the industry, as teachers. They would be lectured, they'd teach classes, and we actually had classes in journalism ethics when I was young. Today, what are the ethics? Thou shalt not do anything that will get you into trouble. That's the ethics. Or you have the Ted Koppel. It's not our job to report the truth. It is our job to simply go out there and do a story and let people decide what the truth is. No. Your job as the Third Estate is to go report the truth. Sometimes the truth is as you see it, but you try to be objective doing it. I mean, there are people that always, on the left, the right, and the center, would basically be narrowly focused on their version of the truth. But there's always a version of the truth.
Yeah.
I mean,
and a lot of times if you're paying attention to the news, if you listen to the questions, you can tell if they're left or right or center leaning.
Yeah, but I can give you an example. I think 1957 on a Steve Allen episode, because, okay, you don't think they ever pull people out in the audience that weren't part of this show. But he calls the setups. I was one of the setups. I come out, I'm young, and they've got like Andy Williams, Louis Nye, Don Knotts, they had Zsa Zsa Gabor, and then they had a few others. Basically, they spoke different language, and Steve Allen would give a news item, and they'd speak it to one another. And by the time it got to the last person in the line, it had no relevance to what was originally said. And yet all it did was go down the line between people. That's basically how it's done in the news business today. It just, you're censored before you ever get it. You know better because you have people in the newsroom saying, don't write that, don't say that, don't. I mean, at least they're not telling you not to think it yet, but that's coming. And that's exactly what he was trying to show 55 years ago when I was young. That's exactly how news is twisted. Twisted, and it's a simple thing that you can twist it from one language to another language because they change the news, they change what is being said to fit the language also. Because, I mean, Alan would deliberately give you something to talk about that he knew couldn't be said in a language that Zsa Zsa Gabor could speak, or that one of the others could speak, and they would change the wording. And when the wording was changed, the next person who's basically putting it like you, Zsa Zsa Gabor would go from German, then it would go over to another person in French, and from French to English, and everything would get changed. And then the guy over here has got something entirely different than the person right before Zsa Zsa Gabor. But that's how news is done. Between the time the story is reported to the time it gets on the air or in the newspaper today, it could have absolutely no relevance because of hypocrisy. They decide if it's news. Is it news that a governor of the United States had an attack, a person tried to kill him?
A what?
Well, that a governor of the state of Missouri, as I understand, had an attack. A person tried to cut the throat of the governor, and he missed the governor and got the head of a college system.
What?
And nearly took the head off of the person. Would that make the mainstream news?
That should have.
It was the wrong news. You had to report the news. The news was that that day was that the Tea Party was thought to be staging something violent.
No, that was bad. Because anytime something like that.
Anytime you try to hit off a head of a state, that's news.
That's news.
But today they're censoring the news to simply fit their things. I mean, like I did tell you about Screen Actor, about the Academy Awards. They said I mean, I can tell you two important people that basically have told them where they could stick their Academy membership, saying there's no chance on earth that you're ever going to see a conservative Republican ever get nominated, let alone win an award in the daytime. And they said they were talking about the fact that CNN and other liberal organizations are down on the Academy, and then this. When one of the big superstars said, well, as they say, what goes around comes around, and the other one basically from the Bible, you reap what you sow. So, and they're going to do it. You can lay your odds that basically you're going to have to force people in the industry to make movies about gay rights for moderates, for minorities, so that they can be the movies that are out there. I mean, even George Clooney has to make movies that are commercially oriented now because he's made so many.
Because the other movies were so
left that they weren't making money, which means
they were commercial.
Yeah, it's just I mean the hypocrisy. I mean, it does go back to my days. Like I met George M. Cohan. I met Al Jolson. I did find like the reason the show must go on is because you don't get paid if it doesn't. They would basically twist things in order to make money. I mean, well, God, I like that song, but they really hate that song. Let's do this song, which they love. So that's hypocrisy. You're going to stand your ground until you find out that they don't like it, so you don't stand your ground anymore. Hypocrites. I mean, do we change things to suit people? No. Do I do news items that get 0 hits? Oh, absolutely. Every day I do things that don't get any hits.
But then they eventually do.
They eventually do well. Right up front, they don't, because here's the trick is, I am so old that what are you going to do? Muzzle me? Oh, gee whiz.
Well, that's why some of those congressmen,
yeah.
They don't, it's like they're that age and they're going to voice their opinion.
Yeah. They said there are 2 times in the life of an individual when an individual has virtually nothing to be afraid of. One at the beginning of their life and the other is the end.
Yeah, both times they have excuses.
Yeah.
One's for being young and the other one for being old.
Yeah, because the young and the old are entitled to be very foolish because they don't know any better. I just consider, well, he's just old. He doesn't know enough to shut his mouth. Yeah, I just don't. I mean, I remember my grandmother's Irish and my father's German. Between the two of them, they can start world wars. Then I have the American Indians on the other side. So somewhere in between, there's some nice things. There's some moderate English in there, folks. But Generally, we just basically, the one side starts the war and the other side basically just wants to fight all the time. So, but even in those are hypocrites. I mean, there's hypocrisy everywhere in life. I just, I've dealt with it,
But it's something that will continue. It doesn't go away.
No, it doesn't change. I can guarantee you, I played so cruddy many Indians. And you know how they would make me play Indians? They would darken my skin and blacken my hair. And the only Indian...
You look pretty German.
Yeah, but the only Indian in the scene?
What?
Was the blonde-haired, light-skinned guy that they were doing. They generally hire Italians and Latinos to play Indians.
Yeah, because they think of Indians having dark hair.
Yeah, but Indians have red hair and they have light skin too. My family are from between the Oklahoma Cherokee. That's my family, folks. Light skin, red hair.
Oh, really?
Blue eyes. That's us. You're never going to find a Cherokee playing a Cherokee because that's not the right color. You have to go cast a Latino or an Italian. I mean, anybody ever remember an actor, Antonio Caruso? Not the singer, but Anthony Caruso, who was a great Italian who did nothing but play Indians most of his life. I mean, because he looked the part of an Indian, but it's hypocrisy. You won't cast the people to play themselves because they don't look like your idea.
Well, because they have this image of what they should look like.
Yeah, it's just the image, okay. That it wasn't until a short time ago that she couldn't be naked on a screen. Well, because they figured the poor Asian girl doesn't know any better. So if she's naked, no one's going to do it. Black people were naked all the time. Latinos were naked. I mean, I remember an actress that I worked with in the 70s that came to television, and she's supposed to do a scene in a bathtub, so she takes all her clothes off. And they said, well, no, you can't do that. And she said, well, what do you mean I can't do it?
It's a bathtub scene.
It's a bathtub scene. They said, well, that was yesterday. Today you can't do that anymore because we know today that you're not uncivilized. But she'd been naked for like 5 years in TV.
Isn't that the most ridiculous thing?
Yeah, but they changed the attitude towards them. The same thing like, I think they did The Life of Paul Gauguin with David Carradine. I mean, we're talking naked Asian women everywhere. Acceptable then, the latest version they do with Paul Gauguin, they're all wearing bikinis that didn't exist in those days. That's the latest one. Because they had their idea of how they should be. Now we have the politically correct idea of how they should be. You realize the Hawaiians didn't wear a lot of clothes?
No, because it's warm.
Yeah, they didn't wear a lot of clothes. When they did a lot of hula dancing, they were very topless all the time, and they didn't wear any panties because panties didn't exist. I mean,
they had those grass skirts.
That's right. I'm watching. It's hypocrisy because they sat there and put clothes on people that didn't wear clothes.
It's historically inaccurate if you're doing a documentary.
Oh, but
right, or if you're doing movies and you want it to be accurate.
Yeah, go back and look at movies done before they became politically correct, and as you gradually see the progression of feature films and television stuff, women, minority women were naked. They got less naked, then they had to be clothed all the time, and now it's just white women that are naked all the time because white women don't count anymore. But it's just hypocrisy. It comes in many shapes and forms, and it's been here since the days of Plato, the days of Socrates. Generally it comes from a person. How can you tell? This is one from Mark Twain. How can you tell a person doesn't believe a damn thing that comes out of his mouth he's saying?
How?
Because he said it. You don't have. If you believe something, you don't have to tell people. You just do it. It's just like another thing. How do you know when a politician is lying? They open their mouth. So it's a change. I mean, I just find it ridiculous that. Okay, we're in the information age. Obama cannot bury everything. You cannot shut the internet down. They've tried to shut it down in Egypt. Basically, all it takes is a person with a transmitter, and basically somebody can basically bust this. When they shut it down, they basically don't really shut it down. They put out a signal that doesn't allow you to do it. But what happens is people, you ever seen
like scramblers?
Yeah, ever seen like on Star Trek Next Generation where they change the frequency or the modulation of their guns or force fields so they can fight the Borg. That's all it does is some little hacker sits there and works on which is going to break through the cloud, and then he basically shoots the signal through. That's all that will be done. So, and everything that is ever done on the internet is still sitting there in space. It sits there waiting to be picked up. Somebody has a server somewhere that it's on, and and then somebody else has a server, and so it's how we actually have over 40 million links is because we're on all kinds of servers all over the world that are being shot around the world every day. And that signals are there. You can't shut down every server in every country, in every city, in every house in the world. You can't do it. It only takes, Thomas Paine basically, it only takes one person to start a revolution. It only takes one person with a server to get that information out. So when Obama condemns, you can't do this, and he does the very same thing, those words that come back to haunt him. So that's hypocrisy at work. I guess until next time, this is Oldecam.
This is not a spring chicken. We're here yesterday, today, and tomorrow.
And for more information, go to www.montybubbles.net on the net.
Because we will be talking more about hypocrisy wherever we see it.
Wherever we see it, we're going to expose it. I mean, like, we try not to be hypocrites because we're actually ran by a dog. And until the last election, we didn't think dogs could vote, but since anybody can now vote in our country,
let's get Monty to vote in the next election.
I think we're going to run Monty for president. She's old enough now.
And wherever you're watching us, subscribe to us, follow us on Twitter, and thank you once again for over 40 million links on the internet.